Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome to this lovely session. We're going to have a real fun ride. We're going to approach a subject that is about new approaches to content distribution. And what I find really quite interesting is here we are, pretty much 14, 15 years after the standardization of much of what we are currently actively using in terms of IP streaming using adaptive bitrate, that we're starting to think about new areas of development. Normally, after about 15 years, you would say the market was super mature and almost dead. But no, we're having new things coming through now, and I think we're here going to talk about some of those. So who I'd like to introduce you to? I'd like to introduce you to Lars Larsen, who is the the CEO and co-founder of Varnish Software, which is a fantastic name, by the way. Fantastic. I'll get my brush out later. And of course, Laurent Cooperstitch.
Exactly.
From Principal Solution Engineer at CDNetworks. And of course, that covers the infrastructure side of the discussion a little bit. But we've got a little bit more of an end-to-end perspective as well with Adrian Rowe, who I've just noticed is actually a doctor. Doesn't do medical, I'm sure.
No.
Essentially, who is the CEO and founder of Norsk, which Norsk by Ideas, I think was to give the full name, and I think you've seen them. I think multiple times now at IBC, really disrupting the market for how to actually do client-based and end-to-end streaming. So, really, then, what I'd like to do then is to begin with introducing Lars, who's up first, to give a short presentation. Come on up to the front and we'll have a good listen now.
Thank you. So, I'm Lars Larsson. I'm one of the founders of Varnish Software, which is probably a reasonably well-known piece of software in the streaming industry. The core of our software is open source. And if you look into the world of CDNs, CDNs are generally based on 1 out of 3 open source products. So it could be Varnish, it could be Nginx, or it could be Apache traffic servers. So wherever you go, you will run into a lot of Varnish and Nginx and Apache traffic server. So I'm going to talk to you for the next couple of minutes about how we see the CDN market changing, some of the challenges, and maybe I can show you something that you haven't seen before in terms of a way of approaching some of those challenges. But I will start with maybe a pretty bold statement. And I need to push a button, of course. So the traditional business model for video delivery is broken. The reason I'm saying that is that we all know how this works. You pay per gigabyte deliver. That works fine, but as we now moving into more and more high definition, we're moving into 4K, that's going to be terribly expensive. In addition, this makes some of the vendors really suffer. Just look at what happened at Lumen, StackPath, and Edu. They were not able to cope with the cost pressure and the ability to deliver video at scale. In addition to those two, there seems to be another vendor missing currently that everyone is wondering what's going on. So the CDN industry is in a little bit of a shake-up. We can also see some of the very big CDN players gradually pulling out, especially of the video industry, and moving into more profitable segments like security, like cloud compute, etc. So long term, this can be a problem. Of course, we always have the cloud providers. They have plenty of capacity. The problem with them, what we have seen so far, is that they charge per gigabyte, and it's very hard. We have seen few cases where you're able to do large-scale video delivery using cloud providers because it's just too expensive, especially when you involve edge compute workloads. Then it's going to be terribly hard to get the numbers together. So to make it even worse, it seems that streaming providers and broadcasters are moving out of cables. Some of them are even stopped doing terrestrial networks, and that will put even more pressure on capacity that you need from time to time. So TV4 in Sweden, which is a big channel, they have multiple channels, they have announced that after New Year, they will no longer make terrestrial broadcast. We have the big American companies who are separating their companies into cable distribution and streaming. And there's no doubt about what's going to happen to the cable part. Slowly going to be replaced by streaming. So more capacity will be needed. And again, introduction of 4K, which a lot of people is talking about at IBC today, very different compared to what it was a couple of years back, that's going to increase pressure. So again, capacity will always be there. It's a matter of who will deliver it and how will you, as a broadcaster or a streamer, get access to that. So there are different ways of dealing with this. Of course, as we've seen some of the global giants do, you can build your own CDN, make sure that you have capacity available in all the regions where you have eyeballs. Building a private CDN is not rocket science today, but it requires a little bit of capital expenditure. It requires some piece of software that you need to maintain, and you need a operations team working 24/7. So it is a rather big undertaking, and you have to do the investment long term. Then there's another model where you basically can buy a fully managed CDN. Someone taking care of everything. It will be just like running your own traditional CDN, but the difference here is that everything is delivered from dedicated edge bare metal servers, sitting in various places, usually in the big ISPs or carriers or telcos where you need them. And this model is capacity-based. So what you do is you basically pay for the amount of capacity you need in terms of gigabits per second or terabits per second, and you get billed a fixed monthly fee. So you can basically fill those servers as much as you can, and that creates some interesting effects. Usually, or in our case, edge compute is something that you get for free because you already own the server, so to speak. You're the only tenant on that server, and you're able to innovate, and you can do edge compute, and you can do other stuff. You're not restricted because it's a private CDN. So this is a model I think we will see more and more of, especially in certain regions where capacity is a problem, or if you have other reasons why you want to do this. I've spoken to some companies who have done this themselves, not the global giants, and they're like, this is the best thing. We're in full control. We have zero problems. So for some companies, this could be an interesting model. Now, how this plays out, again, is different. So this is actually from a POC we did over summer. This customer is now in production. And we measured week by week how many petabytes this customer delivered. So you can see week 27, around 3 petabytes. Then they went a little bit lower. On week 29, they were up again to 5 petabytes, and then they continued to increase. And since the cost is fixed, there are no other costs here than a fixed cost. You can see how their price went from 0007 up to 0008, and then down to 0003. There's still adjustments to do here, but if you have this kind of traffic, you can drive your cost per gigabyte delivered really, really low. So this is a new model. It's not for everyone. We at Varnish Software or Aura Streaming, which is the brand that are doing private CDN on Varnish Enterprise Software, we say that usually 5 petabytes or more per month is what you need to make this fly, because you need more than one server to have a CDN. But it's something that I think we will see more of, not only from us, but also from other vendors. That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And next we have Laurent, who's going to come up and present a view.
Yeah. So hi everyone, I'm Laurent Kuperstich, solution engineer with CDNetworks. I hope you had a good lunch. And today I'm going to talk to you about CDNetworks, still an existing CDN. We are not still broken. and today I'm going to talk to you about how we help businesses to reach the online video market in Asia. So to give you a little bit of background about CDNetworks, CDNetworks has been founded almost 25 years ago now in Asia, and we operate a global footprint of more than 2,800 POPs in 87 countries, and we are supported by 14 offices and 10 R&D centers globally. By having those local offices, we can serve our customers with local support and also a close interaction between the sales team, the R&D, and the support. Some example of existing customers in Asia, of course. So we are working with 17 Live, which is a Japanese streaming platform where they have thousands of streamers delivering their online channel to a massive audience. And they are needing like FLV, large volume distribution, in order to save cost on their delivery. And with CDNetworks, they're able to reduce the latency as low as 3 seconds to make sure that the interaction between the streamers and the viewers is efficient. Another example with an OTT platform in Vietnam, which is K+. And K+ was slightly different because we have been able to develop a tailored solution to improve the overall viewing experience. So it's not just about technology, it's also about helping customers to improve their platform and make custom solutions for them. Finally, another example for e-commerce in this case, which is Shopee, an e-commerce platform. And in this case, during the high sales season, like Black Fridays and so on, they are setting up like live channels to promote their product, and we have been able to absorb any type of traffic increase to make sure that the end users get a smooth and interactive experience. So a couple of examples to show you how CDNetworks can help customers in any type of industry, from e-commerce to streaming platform or OTT providers. At CDNetworks, we run an extensive platform globally with more than 200,000 servers with a capacity exceeding 200 terabits per second, in order to make sure that all the users, starting from Asia, going to West, got a local experience in terms of performances. Also, we are not forgetting the emerging markets. So we are investing a lot in Southeast Asia, in Asia, of course, but also in Latin America, where the demand is rising a lot, in Middle East, of course, and Africa. So it's not only about Europe and US, but also emerging markets where we differentiate a lot. In terms of product and services, of course, we handle content acceleration for your static resources, but also dynamic for all the dynamic content between users back to servers, and also media acceleration on demand or live. On the top of that, as Lars commented, we are also offering a WAP solution, so cloud security for DDoS protection, WAF mitigation, and bot protection, in order to provide our customer a full range of services, but not just only basic CDN. Our media delivery architecture is, I would say, robust and flexible. We support any type of protocol from RTMP, HLS, Dash. So depending on what your streaming or architecture supports, we can easily adapt. On the top of that, you have a range of value-added services like screenshot, recording, watermarking that can be also added into the media delivery architecture. Our streaming capabilities is extremely powerful in the sense that today we deliver approximately 2 million live streams on a daily basis, and we can provide broadband quality experience to our users with latency as low as 500 milliseconds achieved with WebRTC. So no matter where your users are located, they will get a smooth experience. We also included the latest technology like H.266 support, AI super resolution, low bandwidth, high definition, 8K transcoding, and we also support quick protocol as well. We also introduced hardware encoding support for better and faster transcoding. Also, AI in the video delivery has been a game changer, I would say, and it's now extremely powerful. As an example, we are using AI super resolution. So by leveraging AI technology, we're able to boost the video quality. So you have a blurry video, and we are able to make it shine, I would say. Resolution upscaling, we can increase the video quality to upscale to 8K support, and also color enhancement. We also have the low bandwidth high definition module. Basically, we are able to reduce the bit rate up to 50%, but still providing a high end user experience. And the main advantage of this mechanism is to reduce the cost by reducing the amount of data transferred between CDN to end users, but still having a high quality. Finally, we have AI-powered transcoding. So we switched from traditional software encoding to hardware encoding, where we have been able to see an increase in video quality. And then we added the content-aware encoding, where we are able to analyze the scene and the context of the video in order to adjust automatically the bitrate to make sure that the video gets higher quality with a faster transcoding, reducing the bitrate, and control the cost of delivery. That's it for me. And if you have any questions, we are located just right there. Thank you.
Don't worry, we'll tease some facts out of this as well. So yes. So, would you like to introduce yourself there?
I will, yeah. No slides from me, but I will just give a quick overview of Norsk, what we're up to, and how that kind of fits into this context. So we're right over there, so do come by afterwards and say hello. So we come from, we kind of typically start where the cameras stop, and we stop where the CDNs start. That's the space we play in. We specialize in live, and we do a heck of a lot of it. So yeah, we do about 100,000 live events a year with NASDAQ. We have customers like Arqiva, DAZN, Stats Perform, all sorts of broadcasters along those lines. And our focus is exclusively on live to VOD as well, and the use of AI to increase efficiency in the delivery and scalability of those kinds of services. So for some of our customers, we've been able to sort of reduce by 10 the workload, the headcount they need to deliver a particular number of events, which means that they can then scale much more rapidly and much more economically. We do, however, come from a CDN background. So one of our founders, one of my co-founders, Dom Robinson, founded, I think, the second CDN ever in Europe, which was a multicast-based CDN about 20 years ago, and I think that was an idea that was about 40 years too soon. So Keith here in the audience might well disagree with me, because I know he has views on multicast CDNs today, but I think there are some interesting challenges and economics around what that brings. We built one of the world's biggest WebRTC CDNs, and we also interact daily with a large number of CDN providers and partners, and we get to see the kind of the business end of it. And there are two areas that we are particularly passionate about in that context. One is, how can we minimize the burden of making sure things are going the way you want them to be? When you're operating at scale, that can be a very, very challenging task. So you have a whole bunch of information flowing from the center to the edge, and a whole bunch of information from the edge to the center. And I want to make decisions during my live event that make the user experience better. So what kinds of technologies can we facilitate in order to make that exercise a fruitful one? And then we also have kind of technical opinions. So for example, I think Media over Quick's been mentioned already. We were one of the early authors of the draft specs on that. We have a draft 7 compatible capability on that. and really interested to see where that goes and how that can disrupt the market, because frankly, I think it is just a better mousetrap. I think it really ought to change the way the industry does business. And then finally, back to the context of how can I make a real-time user experience better all the way through my supply chain. Well, obviously we have monitoring and AI and support and all that kind of stuff. But how can I deliver that all the way downstream, ideally to the player? And so, again, we're one of the authors of the CMSD-MQA spec. So there you go. There will be tests later. So CMSD allows you to take metadata and insert it into the stream at the packaging stage, and then have that metadata flow all the way along through your packager, sorry, at the encoding stage, so it flows through your packager, through your CDN, all the way down to the client devices. And that standard allows you to put whatever metadata you want in there, so you can put all sorts of stuff, but the MQA, the -MQA bit, is the media quality analysis aspect. So if you look at an operation at scale, you'll typically have some origination services, possibly multiple ones, maybe a separate packaging service, possibly multiple ones, handing off to CDNs, almost definitely multiple ones, and then handing off to multiple end user consumer devices. Into that, in order to work out what's going on, you typically then have large scale events will put lots and lots of probes into out into the world to try and monitor in real time what's happening. What CMSD MQA points out is you already know the answer to that question, because at the origin, as I'm encoding all of this material, I can work out the VMAF score, I can check the quality of the audio, I can do all of this stuff and provide exactly the kind of statistics that your probes are going to have to be recreating whenever they receive a stream. And probes are problematic potentially problematic for a number of reasons. One is they're not the cheapest things in the world. Yeah, rightly so. They're very clever pieces of kit. Two, especially if I have extremely high value content, those probes typically have to have DRM keys on them, and that can be extremely problematic as how I manage that and do that securely and so on and so forth. Whereas if I am taking quality metrics, inserting that at the encoder, that then allows me at a packager, for example, to look at that quality data. I've got two encoding centers. One of them was suffering from rain fade. The other one was having a good day. At that point, my packager can say, okay, that's great. I was using the primary source. I'm going to transparently switch to the secondary source because it's getting a higher quality score. I can then start to do that through my CDN handoff all the way through to the player, where the player can make quality-based decisions as how it can give the user the highest quality experience it possibly can do. So we're really excited about where those kinds of technologies can help bring the CDN and the large-scale live event experience forward and better, but we do it from kind of right at the far left-hand side of the experience.
Right, thank you. Okay, so now we get into the Q&A part of this. And actually, I want to cut to the quick to actually, Lars, you raised an important point about some of the challenges of the current evolution of content distribution right now. We've had 20 years now since interactive services effectively being first delivered that provided on-demand content, and now that we are beginning to see a time point when the traditional broadcast systems will be effectively faded out and replaced by interactive video on demand and live streaming based solutions. But looking at the way the market has developed with CDNs, you drew attention to the fact that the financial underpinning of CDNs has been challenged in the last few years, which is a really interesting and really problematic thing because of the fact CDNs are necessary. There's no one removing CDNs. Not all the technology delivery approaches in the future, CDNs are necessary. And that's a financial issue. So maybe you could just elucidate more around that financial issue for us.
I mean, it's all a cost of production. I mean, CDN struggle to they do massive capacity investments in the infrastructure needed. They needed to be refreshed. In addition, you have to have software that is efficient, and those also require investments to be compatible with everything around us. So it is a matter of continuously invest. And when the price pressure is high, that makes life difficult to be a traditional CDN.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not something that you put in there, let it run for 20 years. It needs constant upgrading, both in terms of hardware and software.
Okay, and Laurent, you actually presented something. We're not even explicit about it, but you actually gave part of the answer for this in the fact that your organization has the CDN aspect, but there are lots of bells and whistles on top of that effectively you'll see almost as value adds. Is that a correct way of describing it?
Yes, indeed. So it's true that the price pressure on the CDN is crazy when it comes to large bit pushing customers. The more data you push, the lower price you want. But we try to manage that in two aspects. First of all, it really depends on the region where the customer wants to deliver their traffic. You know, the bandwidth price may be totally different from Europe to Taiwan, where it's sky high. You know, so that's a first aspect. And on the second hand, I would also say that we try to mitigate that price pressure and on promoting additional services where the margin may be much more higher than just delivering data.
Yeah, yeah. And of course, as the main service, the primary service we consume are the ones delivered over streaming, there's more opportunity for people to make best use of those additional value-added functions.
Yes.
Yeah. So here's an interesting question for you.
Well, I was about to disagree with what you said earlier, if I may.
Oh, okay,
first.
yeah, please
But,
disagree. We'll have a good disagreement.
You said that the world needs CDNs.
Yeah.
And it doesn't. It needs the ability to reliably deliver content to your target audience. Mm-hmm. And exactly the same way that Laurent provides kind of value-added services into encoding and transcoding and so on and so forth, where I think the market is likely to head is you know, it's partly what Lars has encapsulated with the kind of private CDN market, because one of the things that is increasingly common amongst our customer base, and I think just increasingly common, is that you have large numbers of large amounts of content that is of interest to smaller audiences. And especially if those audiences have geographic density, so they're all in New York or whatever, do you need a CDN to deliver those? You absolutely do not. Yeah, you absolutely do not. Where you need a CDN is if I'm trying, it's to do the hard bits. You know, I've built a CDN in the past. It's really, really, really hard. But the happy path is really easy, not least because of things like Varnish Software. And so I think actually, and where's all of this pressure coming from? You know, Lars is doing at a kind of corporate level his, you know, XYZ petabytes, but if you look at starting prices for your typical CDN, if I'm delivering, you know, XYZ, you know, terabytes a month or whatever, comparatively low volumes, that's going to be what, I don't know, 5 cents or something like that. You can get direct egress costs, you know, off numerous cloud providers at well under 1 cent. You know? So if I'm targeting audiences in specific parts of the world, yeah, is that going to help me get to developing economies and so on? Absolutely not. But does the world need CDNs? No, it doesn't. It needs an ability to reliably deliver to its target audience. So and those are different things.
So CDN is an answer rather than the ultimate goal.
And it's the right answer when it's hard. And I think increasingly there's pressure for when the answer's easy, for it not necessarily to be involved because of all the economic drivers that you know the industry is extremely well aware of.
I agree, 100%. I mean, we're first and foremost a software company. Put our software, put it in the cloud, put it on a server, deliver it to your local audience. It works brilliantly.
Yeah.
Okay. And so I suppose the key question here, that's really talking in terms of the issues surrounding the CDN market today, that's very much a cost issue, a financial issue.
I would say so.
Are there technical issues that are left that need to be resolved? Because maybe that discussion about not needing a CDN is part of the technical implementation issue rather than the cost issue.
You can also cheat, frankly.
Yeah.
Because the kinds of things you can do is you can set up a micro CDN, and when it starts to get busy, you can hand off to a grown-up CDN. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you can do that dynamically during the course of an event. So I think increasingly there's going to be downward pressure on CDN economics for all but the, delivering the IPL final to 200 million people or whatever, that's going to take a CDN. It always will do. There's some very, very hard challenges around that.
Yeah.
But going from, I'm currently delivering to 5,000 people, I'm happily doing it on the server that's twiddling its thumbs, suddenly I get a spike, well, hand off to a grown-up CDN. At which point everybody gets, that's not great for CDNs because they only get to see the difficult stuff.
Yeah.
It's true. We have that this case with many customers where they have this hybrid approach where they have either their own origin to handle the regular traffic and then switch over a CDN when they know they don't have enough capacity to handle peak traffic. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I mean, it's common usage, and as well with customers using the multi-CDN strategy, either for failover or either for optimizing the performances in certain region. So we are quite familiar with this type of situation.
Okay, so it's actually, you're talking here about that. It really isn't an either-or situation because, you could be talking about, because a lot of time when people talk about CDN, they really mean public CDN and basically paying somebody to deliver a certain bit rate. But CDN is much more than that, as Varnish has very, very clearly demonstrating that the private CDN is a key factor. And there are maybe companies out there, and there are companies out there that use private CDN and never thought about public CDN whatsoever because their strategy is different. Yeah. But is that the way out for CDNs as well? That there actually there's a CDN for the best purposes within the solution needed by the customer, by whichever it is, whether it's a big operator who needs to have consistent performance and it will pay a premium for consistent performance, or is it the customer who actually needs capacity in areas they can't cover themselves? So what do you think, Laurent, about that?
Well, we have the two scenarios. We have customers coming to us saying, okay, we have new business in certain region where we don't have any local presence, where we can't deploy servers and we need capacity instantly. So that is the first case. And then we also have customers where obviously it's not just about CDN, but also part of the need of value-added services, where it's not only video delivery, but it's a full ecosystem of website delivery, DNS, security, storage, but as well media delivery. So I would say we are a good generalist, meaning that we are not only focused on media delivery, but as well in the entire web delivery, starting from DNS to SSL to security and so on and so forth. So it's not just about media, I would say, for us at least.
Yes, indeed. So taking that forward then in terms of the other utilities of add value-added services that you place in and around CDN, whether it's public or private, what are the applications for, say, edge compute in this day and age that you see your customers effectively having a demand for? Maybe Lars, you can start with that one.
So one of the things that we have discussed with a lot of people here is tokenization in order to secure content. There's a lot of discussions around anti-piracy in general. That seems to be a common topic. Of course, we need to protect the content owners' IP rights. So that seems to be something that is a recurring theme. I think what we will see for the future, I think we are going to see AI inference models that can help us with personalization and give us a completely new experience as viewers. That's going to take a little while, and we also need to make sure that we can run these AI inference models on regular CPUs. If not, they're going to take too much power and it will be too expensive to run them on CPUs. And I think we've seen some things here on the show. I think Broadpeak and Intel had a pretty interesting demo of how they ran through an AI model on a regular CPU. And if that becomes true and it becomes scalable, that's something we will see, and that's really going to boost innovation in general.
Okay. And Adrian, as someone who is feeding into CDNs, what usage do you see for edge compute? Is that something that you yourself use?
It is, and I agree completely. It's around personalization. And how can I get rich content close to where the consumer is, that then they can choose the camera angle or just follow their star player or whatever. You can't. That has to be done in a stepped way. I think I also think AI will be a really important part of that. I actually think it'll happen the other way around. I think having neural processing units is, my phone's got one, your phone's got one, system on a chips are going to have them real soon. So I agree right now, if you want to do it today, you have to have your AI models running on generic CPU, but I don't think that will be the model for long.
No. Okay. And Laurent?
Yes, we have many customers trying to offload the CPU usage from their origin and bring the intelligence closer to the end user. That's why edge compute becomes crucial. So we have the ability to deploy customers' code directly at the edge. So the main advantage is having the users connecting to a local point of presence. So instead of going back to the client's origin to have that logic calculated, so it's done at the edge. So it's always beneficial for both clients because customers, they reduce their CPU usage, and customers at the end, they've got a much more better response time. So edge compute is definitely, I would say, more and more used by our customers to offload their origin and to bring intelligence to the CDN.
Is that really going into sort of even like edge encoding, basically, for example, for personalized content that is only directed to a single customer? Adrian, you're bursting with light.
Our experience of wide-scale edge compute right now is that it doesn't have the grunt.
Okay.
So if you talk, a major cloud provider, they would probably describe themselves as providing edge compute, and obviously at that point I can have either a very powerful CPU or a GPU or some such. But actually, the devices that are down at the telco gateways right now, they are not smart. They really aren't. So can you realistically do transcoding and so on at the edge on those? My personal opinion is no, not at scale. You can maybe do switching and so on, where I'm doing it on got boundaries and things like that, so I don't have to transcode. So absolutely, what we're seeing is, we were used to being very much an origin. Actually, we're starting to see models where we're an origin and we're an origin again at close to the edge. And so you've got 7 cameras coming in. Let's push all 7 cameras, and then whoever asks for which of them, you can deliver that at the edge. But the really large-scale CDNs, I think by and large, don't have significant CPU on those devices at the moment. But that, of course, will change.
Okay.
Then there's another challenge with edge compute. So if content provider creates whatever edge application, you deploy that to one CDN, doesn't necessarily work on a second CDN. So I think we as an industry have to help create some sort of standard. Even though we have WebAssembly and JavaScript, that's not enough. So I think we still have some work to do there.
Correct.
Okay. So we've already mentioned the offending 2-letter acronym, AI. If you had to pick one big feature for you guys about that, what do you think is the thing that's actually going to justify actually deployment and enablement of the capability on the edge for AI in your systems? That would help you, not necessarily you, your customer only, but even you. So what do you think, Lars? Because you're smiling now. I'm going to get you.
Oh, I'm thinking, and when I'm thinking, I'm smiling. So, no, I think going back to personalization, I think that's where it's going to drive interest from the audience. And if it drives interest from the audience, there's a new sort of experience that will also help content providers to monetize. So I think that's what we're going to see. I mean, security, anti-piracy, that's great, but are the audience prepared to pay for that? No.
I think there are kind of 2 top of mind for me. One absolutely is personalization. I think the other is around quality of experience monitoring. Is it the right content? I'm supposed to be sending a soccer match. Actually, this is ice hockey. I've got some kind of routing challenges again. AI allows you to deliver MCR-like functions agentically anywhere in the world. Mm-hmm. And I think that's going to be part of that sort of quality assurance. How can I get sort of tier 1 quality delivery, but at sort of tier 3, tier 4 pricing? I think that's where the market's heading.
And Laurent?
Yes, I agree with AI should be used in the quality of experience, in the sense that it can be predictive in the potential playback issues users can face to find alternative routes for the network. So AI, for us, it would be more for quality of service or quality of experience.
Okay, so now I'd like to actually get into some of the technical things that are coming down the line to us. So I mentioned at the beginning, we've got 12, 15 years of maturity in adaptive bitrate streaming. And each of you, I think, have mentioned media over quick. That's something that's not been seen in this sort of market before, in the fact that it is a brand new protocol, in effect, or now new combination of protocols for delivering video that has impact on the way that it will operate. So what do you think about that and your readiness for that, and what the path of deployment of that is? Laurent.
So regarding quick, we have more and more customers asking for this, and they are, I would say, they are focusing on the low latency. So they want very short delay between the encoding, the event itself, the encoding and the delivery. That's where quick becomes, I would say, quite beneficial. And we are getting more and more powerful on quick to provide this to our customers. So yes, quick definitely a must-have.
Lars?
Yeah, I agree fully. I mean, we're just like you looking into this. I'm also very happy to see how the industry seems to have come together to create some common libraries, common open source software, so it can be implemented in a unified way across the industry. I think that's one of the reasons why it will happen, and happen pretty quickly.
I completely agree, and absolutely welcome some of the open sourcing and some of the consortia that are coming out saying, here are some great tools, we want to have everybody benefit by extending them. I think the other one thing that to point out is that quick happened long ago. Mm-hmm. Yeah, quick is 40% already of the internet's traffic, so quick is not new. Media over quick is.
Yeah.
And I think what is exciting to me, and I don't run a CDN, but what would excite me is the ability at that point I can be both an ultra low latency CDN and I can deliver long-term assets using exactly the same caching infrastructure. Mm-hmm. And that for me, it's just a better mousetrap, and there are head of line blocking and all sorts of technical reasons why, as the market matures, it's just better. And the market needs to catch up. There's not enough handoff to network cards and things like that. So your CPU utilization at the moment for media over quick versus just straight HTTPS or TLS or something is probably going to be slightly higher, but I think that'll change really quickly. And I know it won't happen because it never does, but there's an opportunity for media over quick to come along and say, look, we have 12 protocols currently doing these things, we could replace all of those with one. What of course will happen is we'll end up with a 13th, but that's just
classic XKCD.
Classic XKCD, yeah.
Okay, so thank you very much for that. And I just want to leave people that there are those open source groups out there. It was primed for me a little bit because I was listening to Will Law a little bit talking about their particular flavor of open mock that they're talking about. It seems to be at the moment there's multiple groups, but it does seem to be at the moment that it's those people who are falling. They're basically discussing, well, we're doing it, but we're going to do it with C++. Oh, we're doing it, and we're going to do it with Rust. And that's really interesting, really cool. But it does also lead into an interesting question about, what happens in the transition? Have we really had a transition in streaming before? Because I'm going to be warning you now, lots of devices aren't going to be able to necessarily handle that transition.
But I think there's a couple of interesting things. One of the things actually that I like about media over quick is it's not very complicated.
Yeah.
Now, there are some challenges. So we were super highly involved up until sort of release 07. And I think it's up to 13 or something along those lines now. And actually, churn is a big issue. And one of the things that's quite encouraging is some of the recent announcements are targeting 07.
Yeah.
And some of the people who are already in production with it are targeting 07. But actually, having a really good quick stack That's hard, but there's dozens of those. Some of them are really, really, really good. And I'm adding a media over quick stack. I don't actually think is that much of a challenge on top. So quick is the hard part. Media over quick is actually quite a simple protocol, which is one of the reasons that we like it.
Well, let's hope that the next IBC they'll show some results of that. And then we can figure out what problems come from that. Thank you very much for your time today. It's been really interesting, and I'm sure there is plenty there for people to now to go and scrabble about on Google or ChatGPT and find out about all of those new ideas and new concepts. Thank you again for your time.
Thank you.